Welcome to Project Quiver, a father-daughter journey across the globe to capture the artistry and spirit of the world's finest traditional bow carvers. I'm Todd, the father. Ella is my daughter. Together we're on a mission to create a stunning coffee table book that profiles more than a dozen master bowyers and their unparalleled skill. For each chapter, we travel to the bowyer's workshop, carve a bow under his guidance, photograph his woodcraft in detail, and share his story here on the Salish Wolf podcast. The book is called Quiver, The Art of Life Through Bowcraft. And this journey, our living story, is Project Quiver. Thanks for doing this, Jared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to say right off the bat, because I keep having these recordings where I end record and then the conversation continues for a while and I don't get it recorded. So if you have any questions for me today, feel free to ask away. I'm happy for this to be a two-way conversation. So again, thanks for jumping on the show with me. And remind me, I really don't remember where you're located.
Port Townsend, Washington.
Okay, cool. So that's not far from where my place is on Vancouver Island. Nice. How long have you been carving bows?
This will be my 4th year.
What got you into it?
My grandpa.
Oh, how so? Is he a carver? A bowyer?
He's not a bowyer, and he's not really a carver either, but like from a really young age, he got me involved with primitive skills. I remember being 7, 8 years old and being out on the Teton Canyon where I grew up in Idaho, and he was teaching me how to nap arrowheads, and he taught me how to make atlatls when I was about that same age. And then got into archery a little bit as like a preteen, and then lost my way a little through the teenage years. And then he gifted me a longbow when I was 18, and that just like ignited all of it. And when that bow broke, that's when I decided to go and make my first bow with Corey Hawk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When was that?
That was June of 22.
Okay. Where did your grandfather get the longbow?
A friend of his made it for him some years back, and it was just like a pretty simple board bow with like a piece glued onto the handle, pulled 45 at 28, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever.
So you shot it regularly once you got it?
Yeah. I mean, for the first couple years I had it, few years I had it, I didn't really shoot it all that much. And then probably more so when I was like 25, I really started shooting it more regularly.
Okay. And is that something you're still doing regularly now, archery?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For the past 4 years, I've shot at least, once or twice a week for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a couple periods in there where I've shot every day, and I'm getting back into shooting every day for, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. Why? What does it bring to you?
Just like the most profound sense of peace that I've been able to find really anywhere.
Okay. That's understandable.
To sum it up.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a bit of therapeutic aspect to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you shoot with others, or you typically just shoot alone?
So right now I shoot alone during the week, and then I've just now like established like every Sunday me and some friends get together and shoot for, an hour or two over at my workshop. So
are you shooting your bows when your friends get together, or do they have their own?
A couple of my friends have their own, and then I also supply bows and arrows for people to use.
And are all your bows basically primitive bows?
I do have a laminate longbow, and then I do have like a, pretty standard like recurve. The recurve pulls like 25 pounds, so that's more so like if one of my friends brings their ladies or something, like I have something for her to shoot. I
Hmm.
do have a couple um, primitive longbows that pull light weights as well, and
Hmm.
then the laminate longbow I have pulls 55 to 28. So that was the bow that I bought right after I broke my bow before I went and made that first one with Corey because I just like I wanted to have a bow that I could continue to shoot every day. So
So you're not shooting any compound bows or any modern fiberglass
no.
bows? Okay. All wooden laminates or self bows. Cool. And why is that? Have you shot with the other types of bows before?
Yeah, so when I was a preteen, I had like a 40-pound compound and like, it was fun, but I always gravitated towards like the instinctual shooting side of things. Um, yeah, just like less equipment,
Hmm.
bare bones, like the more simple it is, like the less that can go wrong and the more that's like on me
Yeah.
to have my accuracy and my precision where it
And
needs to be.
are you, do you find that deeper sense of peace when you're shooting with a primitive bow or a self bow than with a compound bow?
Completely.
Yeah. And why do you think
Specifically,
that
like
is?
it's more specifically even with the self bow, like the laminate longbow doesn't even bring me like the same sense of peace as a self bow. Um, it's just a very unique way that I have been shown to connect with nature.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, specifically the self bows, they shoot differently than the laminates. And yeah, that sense of peace like runs deeper with just the way that a self bow feels in your hand and the connection that you have with it because the only self bows I've ever shot are ones that I've made myself, and that's another relationship that I have with that as well.
Yeah. I've never shot a compound bow, fiberglass bow, anything modern, and I don't want to. Like, I've never felt any sort of resonance with that. And I'll shoot primitive bows probably until the day I can no longer shoot, but I don't think I would ever pick up a more modern bow for it. So I don't quite know what that is, but like you, there's a deep connection, and I think it's the more primitive, the deeper it goes. So there's something there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so what are you making mostly as far as bows? Do you have any particular types that you're making?
Um, I really like making like the Eastern Woodlands bend through the handle style bow. That's probably like my favorite build to do right now. Um, I just took a road trip last month and picked up quite the haul of bow staves. And within those bow staves, there's pretty much a stave for kind of any design that I want to build. So I'm just about to start like really diving into some different designs, and I'm excited for that. Really want to make a paddle bow. I'm currently working on a Comanche style horse bow, and I'm just getting into making arrows as well.
Okay. How did you get these staves? Are these just staves that you were cutting as you were doing a road trip?
Um, no, I went and actually took another class from Corey last month
Your second,
and third.
third? Okay.
Yeah, so the first class I did with him, he was doing the Neolithic flat bow in the 101 class. And then I went to the advanced class, made an Osage Eastern Woodland style flat bow. And then on this last trip, I made the Archer Tall longbow.
Yeah.
Um,
Hackberry.
yeah. And so while I was over there, I bought a good number of staves from him, along with a few blanks, some bamboo and river cane arrow shafts, and then from a friend in South Dakota, I bought a bunch more hackberry staves. So
Nice.
I've got hackberry, mulberry, black locust, Osage orange, white ash, Siberian elm, and maybe one or two other species that hickory. Yeah.
Very cool. Have you ever carved with mulberry?
I've never used mulberry, not yet. I've only got one stave, but I'm really
Okay.
excited because I've heard it makes a great bow.
Yeah, it's I've I haven't really heard anything about it, but I know it's the same family as Osage. Um, but I don't think I've talked to anyone about carving mulberry bows. So you have to keep me posted how it goes.
Okay.
Because I know they're all over Corey's place in Oklahoma. Sorry, in Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Yeah, when my daughter and I were walking around, we just kept walking under mulberry trees, and I like to go barefooted, so my feet were stained purple half the time we were there because
Yeah.
it was mulberry season, so we were eating the mulberries, but they were all over the ground. But I didn't see if he had any mulberry staves in his workshop, and at the time, I wasn't really I wasn't familiar with mulberry as a bowwood. Yeah. Actually, I want to back up to archery because I thought of something as I was leaving that topic. So it's something that's really important to you, brings you deep inner peace. You love shooting with the primitive bows. Is there a particular kind of practice that you're doing with archery? Are you treating it as like a martial art, more of a spiritual sort of thing with any sort of routine? Like, what's it look like for you when you go out to do some archery? Target shooting, 3D range, moving through the woods, stump shooting.
Um, Mostly just target shooting, and it's not like a regimented practice where I take like X amount of shots from this place, this place, this place. It's um I kind of like enter this flow state, if you will, where like the first couple rounds of arrows I send off, I'm like tuning out the world and kind of shutting my mind off and like bringing my focus to the task at hand. And um I would love to do stump shooting, but in the Northwest, that's kind of a recipe for losing arrows just because the underbrush is so thick. Um, but I really like walking kind of all over the place, shooting from different distances, doing walking shots. You know, I'll send one arrow at 5 yards and then back up in like 15 and 25. So I'm just trying to become really proficient guessing the yardage, kind of like you do in stump shooting. Yeah, just entering that flow state of like how creative can I get with my shots and like what obstacles can I use to make the shots harder and make me get better at what I want to be good at.
Mm-hmm. What about your breath?
Very focused. Like specifically my breath comes into play like around like the 18, 20 yard mark and further. It's like very, very controlled and you get a big inhale on the draw and you exhale just a little bit and release and
And why only at the further distances? Why not closer?
because I'm a little bit more proficient the closer I get. And so
Okay.
it takes less focus to produce the results I want.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I was just curious. I love archery and I find it to be so meditative. And I know everyone has a different practice, different routine with it. Um, what's it like in Port Townsend as far as your ability to go out? And I know you said stump shooting's a recipe for losing arrows, but can you just go out and wander through the forest with a bow? Do you hunt? Like
Yeah.
what's
Yeah, you can a lot of private land around here. So you kind of have to find like, you know, the right property owner. But I've got 3 or 4 really good private hunting spots and then the public land. I think I've ran into maybe 2 people out on public land during hunting season, during archery season, and I've only ever harvested 1 deer with a self bow. Um, it's the Osage one that I made in Corey's class a couple years ago, and we can get into that in a minute. But yeah, there's adequate hunting land here, and it's all black-tailed deer, and it's a real challenge to spot and stalk. I've tried a little bit of spot and stalk, but for the most part, it's just finding the right tree to shimmy up, and then just really being patient and focusing on the breaths and tuning into all the sounds of the forest so that you can really just be as dialed as possible to know, when you might get that opportunity.
Do you hunt with a gun as well?
I don't. I did harvest one deer with a gun when I was 13 in Idaho, and that was with my dad, and it was a rather irreverent experience. And so to be able to harvest one with a self bow, I was kind of striving to like rewrite that script for myself, and I definitely got that job done. It was a much more intimate experience, and I put in a lot of time before I was actually able to harvest my first year with a self bow. And you hear those stories about how like the animal almost like offers itself to you because everything just works out so beautifully that there's really no other explanation for it. And that's kind of how it felt. Like I'd put in probably close to 180, 200 hours over the course of 2 seasons. Late season was just about to end, and I went over to a friend's property that I'd never hunted before and walked out, and I kind of knew the property. So I walked out, found a tree, shimmied up it, and like within 15 minutes I was able to take the shot, and I was like dumbfounded because of all the hours that I had spent. And then it just like all came together within like 15 minutes of sitting in this tree in this particular spot at this time. And um, that shot was probably 5 yards or less, really steep angle, beautiful doe, walked right in. I thought my heartbeat was gonna like give me away because it was pounding so hard. And I was really, really grateful for practicing my breath while target shooting because that muscle memory of practicing my breath while shooting really came into play to keep my nerves calm enough to make a good, clean, ethical shot. It was a really steep angle, and I was able to make a double lung shot, and she ran about 50 yards, and the wave of emotions that followed after that were definitely much different and much stronger, much more grounding than the experience I had when I hunted with a gun. And I'm not really in a position to have to like want for meat. Like I do okay for myself. And so hunting for me is like a way to both, yes, fill the freezer, but also to challenge myself. And not being dependent on harvesting a deer allows me to put in the time that I need to get the experience that I want out of it.
Mm-hmm. Is your dad or grandfather a hunter?
My grandfather, for sure, his whole life growing up, him and all of his brothers, they were really big into hunting, and that was pretty much a necessity for them with how they were raised and everything to be able to eat meat year round. And then um, my dad has harvested a handful of animals, but it was never like a passion and something that he wanted to go and do.
Mm-hmm. Was your grandfather a bow hunter?
No, he got into archery later on in life more seriously, and then probably about a decade ago, his shoulders kind of went out, and everybody talked to him like you should get him replaced. You can keep doing the things that you love, and he never did, and probably won't ever. But I remember shooting longbows with him We used to just like shoot blown up balloons at the target. And he did a little bit of hunting with the longbow, but he never did harvest anything with it.
Mm. Okay. And anyone else in your family? Hunter or
Yeah.
archer?
My little brother Joe, he hunts with compounds and rifles. And I actually just dropped a hackberry stave off for him on my way back to Washington. He's made a couple out of mountain maple.
Okay.
I'm excited to get him a nice bow wood that he can make a good hunting bow with, because I really want him to get into hunting with a self bow. And then my brother-in-law also hunts with compounds and rifles, and they've both harvested deer and elk with compounds and rifles. So I know that they can like get in close and like they know where the animals are, and I'm really trying to get them into self bow hunting.
And what do they think about what you're doing? What do they think about like bow making and the bows that you have?
My little brother's really excited about it. Um, he's also into blacksmithing. Um, and kind of, his approach to primitive skills is because of my grandfather. Um, then my brother-in-law, he thinks it's cool, but he also like recognizes how hard it is. And I don't know if he's as keen to take a piece of wood out into the forest to try and fill his freezer, because he does like really hunt for the meat. He's
Mm-hmm.
got, 3 boys and my sister, and he provides for all of them. And then he also just like really, really enjoys hunting. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have in the background behind you? I see like 3 quivers and at least 3 bows. Are you in your workshop right now?
No, I'm actually in my bedroom.
Okay.
So I have my whole arsenal right by my bedside, which I
Yeah.
love. Um, this one is the Eastern Woodland style Osage flat bow I made with Corey. This is the one I just finished in March with him. Um, this is another Osage bow that actually Corey started. It was a blank. I finished it a few months ago. This one is kind of fun. This is a Ocean Spray kids bow. This pulls like 15 pounds at like a 16-inch draw. That's a fun little one. And then I have a kids quiver here. This is my quiver that Corey made me this. We did like a craft trade for this one. This quiver's kind of cool. So this is actually like the oldest thing that I still have in my possession that I made. So I made this quiver when I was 14 with my grandpa.
Cool.
And I worked in wilderness therapy when I was like 24 and 25, and I carried my fire kit in this quiver, and I've hunted with this quiver. Like this has seen quite a lot.
Yeah. What's the
And
go ahead.
then these two over here, just hickory board bows, and then this is an agave quiver that I made.
Agave.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like the type of it? Or
It's the material. So I have a friend down in Arizona with some private property, and I was able to harvest like an agave stalk off of it. So with that, you just like split the whole stalk in half, and then you carve out the inside except for the bottom chunk, and then you can glue it back together or lash it back together.
cool. Is that kind of like a bamboo or sugar cane?
Mm, not really. It's like the whole inside of the stalk is like super pithy. You know what yucca is? So yucca, it's kind of the same thing as yucca, but agave produces like a much larger stalk.
Okay.
You
And
can make didgeridoos out of it and all sorts of stuff.
that's where the sweetener agave comes from, I presume.
I believe.
Yeah.
But don't
All
quote
right.
me on that.
Don't know. Okay. Cool. All right. I had a question for you. Hang on. What were we just talking about? The quiver you made.
Yeah.
You can hang it up. It reminded me of something. I'm just trying to. Oh yeah. You said wilderness therapy. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So that's kind of a big part of my story. I kind of mentioned like I got into archery as a preteen and then kind of lost my way and then circled back around to it. So when I was 20 years old, I didn't really have any direction in life. I was kind of going nowhere fast, and I was presented with the opportunity to go to wilderness therapy, and I attended a program in southern Utah that's now closed. It just, in short, changed my life in every way it needed to be changed, gave me my direction back, stopped using substances as a crutch to numb out and run away from life experiences, and got me back in touch with what my grandfather had started with me at such a young age of making things with my hands, which is a huge meditation for me, brings me a lot of peace. And how I found Port Townsend is when I left that wilderness therapy program, I came to a men's adventure inpatient in Port Townsend. That's now changed ownership and everything, but it was called Grey Wolf Ranch. And I was in wilderness for 3 months and in Grey Wolf Ranch for 6 months, and got to see a lot of Washington backcountry on these adventures that we would go on. And in wilderness therapy, I was on the Grand Staircase Escalante for 85 days straight from November to February, so through the winter. And um,
What
it
is
was
it?
just,
What were you on?
I was on the Grand Staircase Escalante
What is
National
that?
Monument.
Okay.
It's a national monument just outside of Kanab, Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, really close to the Arizona border, and it's really, really beautiful. Um,
And how long
and
were you there?
then I was in wilderness for 85 days.
So that means like out in the bush for 85 straight days.
Yeah, so they supply food drops to you twice a week. You make shelters with tarps. You have a sleeping bag. Everything fits in your backpack. It's a nomadic style, or it was a nomadic style program. Where you would just hike from campsite to campsite, and therapy once a week, group therapy once a week. So that's kind of like my journey of self-awareness really started.
And are you doing that at the same time as other people?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
And
I was in a
are
go
you are
ahead.
you are you meeting those people other than that group's therapy session? Like when you're out in the wilderness, are you bumping into other people?
Yeah, so there was like 7 or 8 groups out there, and I was in the adult group. And so in the adult group, there was anywhere between like 4 and like 8 or 9 of us at a time. So you were always with your group, and then there was anywhere between like 2 and 3 uh like staff members, trail walkers that were like with you, basically
Okay.
like
So
glorified babysitters.
every day you're with these people.
Yeah,
Okay. So you're not solo wilderness
yeah.
trekking. Okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. So there's a destination, then in each day you have a place, a target where you're trying to get to. There's food waiting for you there.
And then when I was 24, I went back and I worked at that same program in southern Utah and worked there for about a year. And that was like a completely different kind of experience because I was like responsible for people and I wasn't just out there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a great opportunity to get back and kind of pass forward what I was given as I was a student there. And I got to teach a lot of kids how to make a lot of cool things. And I love that.
Does that mean you had to be trained in like wilderness first aid?
Yeah.
And did you have a weapon with you for safety?
Um, we had knives. That was like the only weapons we had, and did have a wilderness first responder certificate, and that's about it.
Do you
Pretty bare bones.
ever have any pretty intense moments?
Yeah, for sure. Not like anything with like wildlife or anything, but some of the kids that went through that program uh, were suffering a lot and definitely brought about some intense moments of emotional processing, and um, is really challenging to care for people as much as I do and do that job without becoming like invested in someone's outcome. It's it was just hard for me to remain objective and be out there and do a job because I knew what that program could do for someone because it did so much for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got more emotionally invested than I probably should have. But for that reason, maybe I changed more lives than I wouldn't have. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible I didn't change anyone's life,
Doubtful.
but I know it. I know it was hard, but I'm really grateful that I got to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Were you building fires every night and everyone hanging out around the fire and sharing?
Yeah. So
Same thing.
everybody was responsible for like cooking their own meals, but
Yeah.
every fire that we had out there was a friction fire. So
Yeah.
we would teach bow drill and hand drill, and we would like turn it into competitions, and it was a lot of fun to just
Mm-hmm.
sit around the fire and talk about life and cook food and share our stories with one another.
And that alone is life changing. Like we need more of that. Just like that simple sitting around the fire that you've built with fellow people who are just trying to be the best versions of themselves in nature, talking. I mean, that's what we're hugely lacking in today's world. Like most kids don't even get to sit around a fire, let alone learn how to build one and share.
Yeah.
So we had
I have,
this a couple of years ago here in Costa Rica. A bunch of dads got together. We did it twice. We did it for our daughters and we did it for our sons. We all had kids that were kind of the same age, and we did two different things. But I think we went to the same beach location both times. So we took the boys and just had like a 3-hour bonding with they were probably like 8 to 12-year-old boys, built a fire, had a share circle sitting around the fire, and really just opened up the conversation. And I think we had 3 questions that we asked everyone. So the dads and the boys all had 3 questions. And it was something like, one of them was related to fear. Like, what are you most scared of? I don't remember them, but I was just blown away by the depth of response we were getting from like these 8 and 9-year-old kids who had permission now among their friends and among their dad and their friends' dads to actually be intimate and share something profound. And it just struck me really that without fail, I think for that one question about greatest fear or whatever it might have been, but pretty much every child talked about being alone and what that felt like. And it was so powerful to me as a dad to realize like, yeah, like it's these kids, they're so independent and it's so great to see them go out and hang with their friends and do these things on their own. But it's so important that they have that that safety that they can come back to, that dad that they can come back to, or that mom, or ideally both, where they can just like open up and express themselves. And it was so touching for me to have all those kids be like, yeah, I'm scared of being alone. And none of them were trying to be tough and being like, no, I got this. And then we did the same. It was slightly different with our daughters. And for some reason, all of us had slightly older daughters who were all going through puberty. So they were all early teenagers. And I think for that one, we did like a mini Burning Man where each father daughter couple was to build a fire on the beach in some sort of monument, like some sort of art, not just a fire, but we were all telling a story with our fire. And so we had like an hour where the dads and daughters were out collecting driftwood and whatever it was going to be and building this altar for their fireplace, whatever it was. And with their fire, they were creating a story. And then we all walked around and had every couple share what their story was. And I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And then we sat around we moved all the fires together and sat around a bigger fire. And again, just had a share. And it's so incredibly empowering and powerful to have people just sitting around like our ancestors have done for millennia under the stars, sharing a fire, and that thing that is so important for all of our survival in the past. Maybe not so much now, but fire was essential for survival, and that connection with nature and the stars. It's beautiful, and we need more of that. So good for you for bringing that into so many people's lives. Sorry, bit of a tangent.
Oh, that's great. That actually like sparked another thing. Like through my battle with addiction and just lack of direction in life, and just how prevalent that is like within society now. I've I don't know. I've thought about it a lot as to like, why. And I feel like one of the main things that's missing from our culture now that has been present, forever is just ritual and ceremony. Because like going through wilderness therapy, working in wilderness therapy, going through that inpatient program, and then I actually went back and worked for the company that bought it, and hearing everybody's stories like within like that world, everybody was really connected to like a certain song that they would listen to when they would go and do, when they would go and get high, or they were like attached to a certain place or a certain routine. And it like, so their addiction became their ritual. It became their ceremony. And I feel like the lack of ceremony and ritual and the lack of these like rites of passage that have existed for thousands of years, it's like it's written in a human's DNA that like these things are important. And when we don't engage ourselves or other people in these ways, they go and find ways to engage in them on their own. And a lot of people find really healthy ways to do that, and a lot of people find really unhealthy ways to do that.
For sure. Hey, I lost your visual. Is your video working? There you go. Yeah, absolutely. It's we are going to find, well, we need to be engaged or absorbed in something. I think it's part of our who we are, and that's where something like bow carving or a hobby, a healthy hobby, is so important. Whether it's a sport or creating music or creating bows or other things, and instead, people were turning to all the distractions that society provides today, which typically are digital, and don't teach us to create anything. Don't teach us to use our imaginations. And us, I mean, not just kids, especially. I mean, literally, you give a kid a screen and they can sit around for 24 hours a day and not even eat or sleep. It's so addictive, and that's a drug. It really is a drug, and I think that's one thing that archery, one thing that it means to me is like that connection back to our ancestors and to nature. And regardless of what you do with it, whether you're just carving the bow and never shooting it, or whether you're shooting the bow and have never carved it, and there's something there. There's something that's a connection back, and something that can bring us into our consciousness and being more mindful. It's a beautiful thing, and that's lacking. That quiver that you made when you were 13, that was with your grandfather. How many kids get to do that anymore? To go out and make something natural with their hands. It's actually a tool that they're going to be able to use, in your case, for a decade or longer. And what a gift that he was able to give you and your first bow. And just having those father figures, those mentors in your life. it's so valuable. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing today is fathers are too busy, caught up in the digital age, to be fathers. We're running into the same thing. It's not just the kids who are on screens all the time. It's the dads are half of them aren't present at all, and the ones that are present, sometimes they're not really fully present. They're caught up in doing everything that we need to get done, when really it comes back to family and kids. And if we can put all of our focus and intention on that, it's going to be a much more beautiful world.
Agree. And it's also been a challenge for me, but
Yeah.
something I'm working on for sure.
Yeah. Do you have kids?
I don't have kids.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me a bit about. Let's get back into bowcraft. How often are you carving? Is it a hobby or a full-time thing for you?
It's a hobby. I'm carving a couple times a week.
Do you have a workshop?
I do. Yeah. It's about 5 minutes from my house, which is really nice.
Okay. You share that with others, or is it yours?
I share it with others. My friend, he has a really nice, successful cabinet making business, and I rent a little corner of his shop.
Okay. So often when you're carving, are you working alongside him? He's in there.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
probably less often than not.
Okay. So you're carving alone then most of the time?
Yeah,
And you prefer it that way?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
I really like working with other people too, but
Yeah.
when I'm on my own, I just put my music in and enter the flow state of creating.
So the flow state again, like with archery. So do you get that same deep peace when you're carving?
Yeah, honestly, I probably get it more when I'm making something than when I'm shooting.
Yeah, it's understandable. And what are you carving most often in your workshop? Any particular types of bows or woods?
I've probably worked with Osage more than any other bow would, and well, I don't know. It's like a tie between Osage and Hackberry, actually. Those are the two that I've worked most with, and um, made a handful of Neolithic flat bows with a stiff handle, and then just been through the handle flat bows. Those are kind of my bread and butter of what I'm like really comfortable with. And until now, I haven't had the stock to really try and jump into other designs.
Right. And based on what I'm seeing, and your teacher being Corey, I presume you're not doing anything fancy, no arrow shelves, no risers.
No arrow shelves, no risers. I did just get some material to try some horn knock points on the bows. I want to try that. I just got some sinew, so I want to try a sinew backed bow.
What kind of
Heritage bows. I can't remember his name, but
Pete Woodland.
Yeah, definitely feeling inspired by him because like the bows he makes is functional, but it's also just like this really beautiful art piece.
Yeah. Well, how close are you to Port Angeles?
I'm like an hour from Port Angeles.
So I mean, you should just take the coho across and go see Pete. Like he's seriously, he's land in downtown Victoria. He's 25 minutes away from that, and he teaches intimate workshops, 1 or 2 people. He's got a little A-frame cabin on his property, overlooks the ocean. It's gorgeous. Little cedar shingled workshop outside. Half of it's outside, half of it's inside. But yeah, he's an amazing teacher.
I had no idea he was so close to me.
Yeah. You could be there in a couple hours, man. And he's an incredible guy, and you've seen his work, his skill is it's off the charts. Like all the bowyers that you talked about are amazing, but I really love the artistry that Pete puts into his bows. Yeah, go check him out. He would love to. I'm sure he would love to show you what he does. What kind of horn overlays or horn knocks did you get?
Just like
cow, buffalo.
I'm not 100% sure. They were gifted to me by a friend for Christmas with all the sinew.
Nice.
He was like, "Yeah, I've had these laying around. You'll probably put them to better use than I will."
It's a cool friend who has sinew and horn laying around, but not many do. But Yeah, I
Yeah, he's
love.
been working on a vine maple bow in my
Oh,
workshop with
okay,
me.
nice. I love horn knocks. They're so beautiful. Self knocks are great, but there's something about putting on a knock or a horn tip overlay that I just find it to just be so gorgeous. Yeah. And you haven't used it yet? You haven't done any yet?
Nope,
Nice.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what's the quiver that you made with your grandfather made out of? Do you know what kind of leather? And
It's a cow.
did you have anything to do with the leather?
No, had no. He ordered it from somewhere, and it's cowhide, and it's got a little bit of deer hide lacing on it as well.
Okay. Are you doing any leather work with your bows? I know you have some wrapped handles. Are you doing any stitched handles or?
Mostly I've only done wrapped handles. I've made like 2 stitched handles ever, but I do want to get into like uh a larger variety of handle wraps
Mm-hmm.
just to play with it. And yeah, most of the leather work I do is unrelated to bows, but I tan I brain tan deer hides
Do
and
you? Okay.
um I
Also a
yeah,
hobby or is
yeah.
that is a hobby? Okay. And do you make stuff with the leather that you brain tan?
Yeah. So like one of the main things that I make with them are these. This is a really old weathered one, but I wear this every day, and my grandfather has worn one like this like for as long as I can remember every day. Still does to this day.
Wow. What is it?
It's just a little knife sheath.
So it's a
So it's
knife.
got a little French mushroom picking knife, an open L, and made the first one of those for myself like probably 6, 7 years ago. And for a long time, it just like hung on the wall. And then I decided I do want to be the type of person that wears it every day. So I
And
started, and
do you forage for mushrooms?
I do. Yeah, Washington's great for that.
Yeah, it is.
There's so many kinds of mushrooms. My favorites in the fall, chanterelle picking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so another thing I do is weave willow baskets.
Sweet.
So this is my pack basket. It's got a full waxed canvas liner. So speaking of foraging, yeah, I'm about it.
Wow. That's cool. So how long does it take to weave a basket like that?
Uh, that basket took me a little bit longer because I was trying to get kind of fancy with it.
Huh.
So that one took me about 9 hours, but if I'm doing like a pretty
Doesn't
basic
seem
one, I
too
can
bad.
knock it out in about 6 or 7.
What's the process from beginning? Are you harvesting you said
Um,
willow?
Sometimes I have, yeah. So start to finish, you harvest the willow preferably during like the coldest time of the year because that's when the most moisture's dropped out of it. So if you go out and harvest like after a really gnarly cold snap, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then winter harvested willow usually weaves a little better than any other time of the year you harvest. If you harvest in the spring, that's pretty much the worst time to harvest willow.
Okay.
Um,
And
so you harvest
what are you harvesting?
um, mostly wild willow is what I've harvested.
Okay.
So
And
I've
are you
like
taking branches, whole trees? What do you? I have
just
no
the
idea.
branches. So
Okay.
willow typically grows as kind of like a shrub. I mean, there's obviously willow trees and whatnot, but like the shrub, it'll be really, really branchy. So there's a practice called coppicing, and you basically just like trim the whole thing down to the ground, and it's got a really established root system. And then the next year, it sends up these really long, nice straight rods off of that powerful root system because it wants to get up and get out fast. So they don't branch. And those are like the best ones to harvest.
Okay.
So you're
So
harvesting those
they
really
sit
long,
they say
straight, no branches.
long and thin.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll harvest it all and then you'll dry it completely because the first time you dry it, it's like the largest shrink. So you'll get it like bone dry, and then you'll rehydrate it. And kind of every willow's different, and different climates like have, different results. But like a kind of a rule of thumb is you soak it for 7 to 10 days, and then you mellow it for 3. So mellowing it is you take it out of the water and like wrap it in wet canvas, and that allows the water content between like the inside and the bark to homogenize, and then you can weave with it. So you rehydrate it because it doesn't swell as much as it as like green willow is. So if you weave with green willow, you typically end up with like a really loose basket.
Okay. How'd you learn that?
I learned basket weaving from a really good friend of mine at a primitive skills gathering. The first time it was at Winter Count in Florence, Arizona, happens in February. And then took another class from him at Rabbit Stick, which happens in Rexburg, Idaho in September. And that's actually my hometown, is, right around Rexburg.
So how is that purely hobby as well? Making baskets?
Yeah, I've sold, a handful of bows, handful of neck knife sheaths, handful of baskets, but, nothing
Yeah.
full time.
Do you have a day job or a
I do
full-time
have
job?
a day job. I own my own company. It's called Get Your Pine Out of the Gutter. It's roof and gutter cleaning services in Washington.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So it keeps you busy most of the time, and then you filling in your free time with making stuff, making cool shit.
Yeah.
That's cool. And your bow brand is Primitive Alchemist, is that right? Where did that come from?
Uh, I thought like for a long time, like what do I want to be known as? And like what do I want people to like aspire to be? Like if they look at me and they're inspired by me, like what do they see themselves becoming? And like I would love to be known as a primitive alchemist. And kind of like my mission statement with that is just enhancing nature's beauty. Um, because when I create, that's like the time I feel closest to God. And pretty much everything that I used to create was just put here naturally by God. And so when I'm able to like take these things provided for me in the natural world and manipulate them into a tool that's something completely functional and useful, that's in my mind, that's primitive alchemy. I'm going to start teaching workshops next year officially, baskets, hide tanning, and bow making. Probably not many classes each, 1 or 2 throughout the year for each one of those things. I think it'd be really cool for people to show up and say, yeah, like now I'm a primitive alchemist. Now I know how to take these natural materials and turn them into something beautiful and functional that I can use every day.
How much of this do you think you would be doing without the influence of your grandfather?
I'd be lucky if I was doing any of it.
Yeah.
I I honestly don't know where in life I would be if he hadn't influenced me in this way.
Is he still alive?
He is.
Okay. What does he think about this?
He's really proud of me and really happy that I'm carrying on this legacy within our family for sure.
That's so cool. Take me through your process of carving a bow. And I guess I'll start with when you have a stave, do you already have a design in mind that you're going to try to get from the stave, or do you communicate with the stave in a way and figure out what what's in there, what's waiting to come out?
Can you hear my dog? My
Just a
dog's
little,
screaming. Hey.
just a little bit.
Um, so up until now, it's been more of like forcing a design out of a
Hmm.
stave. And that's gone pretty well for the most part. I have broken, probably 3 or 4 bows on the tillering rack of just pieces of wood not agreeing to what I want them to do, which is okay. It's humbling. Teaches me a lot every time it happens. So now that I have a little more wood, I am excited to be interested in more designs and try and select the correct stave for each one of these designs that I want to execute, because I like not all pieces of wood are created equal in any stretch of the imagination. And so really trying to tap into what each piece wants to be is going to be really fun for me. And I have developed that relationship with wood in other ways as well. Before I started my own company, I was a sawyer, so I ran like a mobile sawmill, and having like a client's cut list and this pile of logs, like you have to decide like which piece of wood is going to come out of each log, and that's more of like a production type approach. And it always kind of fascinated me between like, oh man, I go to work when I was a sawyer and I just make a ton of lumber out of all these logs. And then when I go and work on a bow, it's like so intimate and it's just like one piece of wood and you're really trying to like nail that design with this one piece of wood. And you're taking it down to a card scraper and sandpaper and it's like so fine and um, so methodical. Whereas like when I was a sawyer, it's like everything's just like go, go, go.
Mm-hmm.
So like holding that dichotomy when I was at that job was kind of fascinating to me because I definitely gravitated towards um, more so like tapping into what the wood wanted to be in like the most precise way.
Mm-hmm. So once you've decided on a design and a stave for the design, what's next?
Doing the layout,
You draw it on the bow?
yeah, yeah, draw it on the bow, always focusing on the the grain patterns, following the flow, minimize grain run out, and then
Do you have
draw
to
knife
do you have
and
to
wrap.
chase do you have to chase a ring on most of the woods you work with or no?
Um, yeah, for the most part. I do have, so vine maple, they say it's not of the utmost importance to chase a ring on it. And I just got a Siberian elm stave that apparently it's not super important to chase a ring on Siberian elm either. I haven't done enough research on that one just yet, but yeah, Osage, hackberry, just yeah, definitely in your best interest to chase a ring.
And you said you're using a draw knife and a rasp.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your
Draw
main.
knife, rasp, and I use like the Shinto rasp for the most part. Um,
It's interesting how draw knife's pretty much across the board for bowyers that I've worked with, but the rasps, everyone has a different favorite for rasp. Some people never used a Shinto rasp. Some people don't like them. Some people love them. It's farrier's rasp. There's just so many different styles of rasp and so many different bowyers are drawn to typically a particular one. It's
yeah,
really
I
cool.
love the Shinto rasp.
Yeah. Nice.
I think it's got a lot to do with patience because I know myself to not be the most patient person, and a Shinto rasp like slows me down a little bit. So
And then what else? Card scrapers.
yeah, card scrapers. If I need to do heat corrections, I'm using dry heat. I have like a heat gun. Um, I have steamed a couple bows to straighten. Um, taken out prop twist. Definitely like a fat product and heat gun. Um, I have a stave press, which
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the stave press is like the biggest game changer ever.
Yeah.
It's Yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
if I'd be where I'm at without a stave press.
I'm building a workshop right now in Costa Rica, and I want 3 outdoor stave presses. So I'm figuring out how I can get those here. But yeah, I use them with Corey, of course, Corey Hawk, and some other bowyers I worked with. And I think that's my favorite. I like standing, being able to move, not fiddling around with vices too much. Or yeah, so the stave press is pretty awesome. Cool. What else do I want to ask? So any particular tools that you use that aren't so commonplace that you know of?
Mm, I'm like envisioning my like tool rack in my shop right now. I feel like pretty much all of them are pretty common. I guess, I don't know, one thing I picked up from Corey is like a wood gouge. So specifically on some staves, there's a like a dip in the ring, and like um the draw knife just like won't get in there.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally I'll use a wood gouge to take that part out and then tune it up with a card scraper that has the curve on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I would assume most people do that.
Are any of your designs influenced by the Pacific Northwest? You mentioned the paddle bow. Was that a Pacific Northwest paddle bow that you're talking about doing?
Probably, yeah.
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 And have you studied many of the designs from the Pacific Northwest?
No, I haven't. I actually haven't found like a right proper piece of literature
Yeah.
to study them. I'm
Okay.
really bummed that volume 3 of North American like the Encyclopedia of North American bows, arrows, and quivers. Volume 3 was never published, so still looking for like a good piece to like study dimensions, study wood species, and uh, get like a really solid replica
Yeah.
worked up.
Who was telling me, I think it was maybe Jamie McDonald of Ravenbeak, on the British Columbia coast. I think he was talking about the Victoria Museum and downtown Victoria. I forget what it's called. Yeah, I don't remember, but it's one of the big museums, maybe the History Museum. He went years ago and he said you could actually just schedule an appointment and get a tour of the archives. And they had a bunch of bows from the area and there. And I did reach out to him this past summer, and there was something about they were moving collections or something, so they couldn't have any visitors. But might be, for you, something worth looking into, because they had what I heard was a pretty extensive collection of bows to the Pacific Northwest, and you could actually go in and hold them and take measurements and photos and stuff.
That's great. I just took a note of that.
Yeah.
So
But that's, I found that moving around kind of in Europe, there's a lot of museums and a lot of bows. You can't always get your hands on them, but there's a lot of beautiful examples of ancient bows and museums. That's really cool. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest, do you have available Pacific yew? Because you haven't mentioned yew wood at all.
I have one yew stave, and it's not great. It's from a branch. Um, and
Is it, is it
I've
not
gone out.
growing in your area?
I I just haven't been able to find it.
Okay.
Not somewhere that I can harvest at least. Like there's a handful growing in like people's yards and stuff, but yeah, I haven't found anywhere that I can like go consistently find it and harvest it. So I actually contacted Pete, and I'm probably gonna buy some used staves from him, because it's definitely a wood that I want to work with, being that it's like native to around here. I've worked with ocean spray, which is also native around here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and apparently ocean spray is comparable to Osage. But it's really, really quite challenging to find a piece of ocean spray here that's long enough and clear enough to really make a bow with.
Yeah. Do you know Ryan Gauthier?
I
Storm
don't.
Crow Archery. His handle's Wizard Goat. He's just in BC too. He's on Vancouver Island, and he's worked with a lot of different woods. I think he's worked with Ocean Spray. He's got a ton of experience making like Salish replica bows and working with native woods. So might be worth reaching out to him. He's
What
a
was his
really
name?
good guy. Ryan Gautier. His handle's Wizard Goat. You'll find him. He's on our Instagram a lot because he's one of our 14 bowyers and for Project Quiver. So yeah. Are there any other local woods that are good for bow making near to you?
Probably the main two are just vine maple and ocean spray. I've heard that you can use rhododendron, but I don't know about that for sure.
You must have a lot of fruit bearing trees though, like apple, pear.
Yeah, a lot of
Have you,
apples, cherries.
have you worked with any of those?
I haven't.
Okay. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to share with us today your journey. It's pretty cool. Happy to learn more about you. Where can people find out about you?
My Instagram, primitive_alchemist. Once I get my workshop dates figured out for next year, I'll be posting about them on there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have a website?
Not for Primitive Alchemist yet.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll put the Instagram in the show notes, and thanks for reaching out. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely.
And I'll be back on Vancouver Island for a little bit this summer. So feel free to reach out. I can introduce you to Pete. He lives just down the road from my place. So that's how I got to know him. We were practically neighbors. I saw his axes. He refurbishes old axes, puts new handles on them. And I saw his axes in a little boutique store probably like 10 or more years ago. And I was like really fascinated by them. And I was trying to find the guy who made them. And then I found out he made bows, and I was even more fascinated with them. And I was trying to find the guy who made them, and I couldn't find this guy. I don't know how hard I was trying, but I had his contact. So I was messaging him, but for some reason we never were able to fully connect. And then one day my wife invited our neighbors over to come check out our farm. And we're walking around and just chatting. And it turns out Pete's the dude who I've been communicating with for like a year. And he's like right there on my farm. I'm like, what? That's you? Holy shit. You live like, I don't know, a minute down the road from me.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So question for you, what inspired you to do this whole project?
Well, Pete and Jamie were big inspirations. So when I felt the calling to get into archery, which was probably about a decade ago, and it came to me through my Chinese medicine background. I practiced Chinese medicine and practiced Tai Chi, which is an ancient martial art that has a weapons training component. And so going through these forms of holding an imaginary bow and arrow, which I've been doing for probably 20 years. I've been doing a daily Tai Chi Qigong practice. And I just remember very distinctly one morning I was doing that pond side at my farm, and I just felt like, I love this position that I'm in right now, this archer-esque position. I feel like I need a bow. And so I started that morning, I just started like searching, like I need a bow. And I felt like I was lacking some things in life. I had a month before we moved to this farm in 2011, maybe 2014, maybe, I don't know, but 15-ish years ago, I had destroyed my ankle in a water skiing accident. And prior to then, I was a competitive distance runner. I traveled the world running marathons and half marathons. And that was in a moment stripped from me, like everything that I'd been a runner my whole life. And so I was pretty lost in a way. Like I had a business, I was doing my acupuncture, like I had professionally, things were fine. But when it came to personally what my purpose was, and I never felt my purpose was business side of things. That was just something that I was passionate about, but it wasn't my purpose. And so when archery kind of called to me that morning, it felt like a purpose. I can't explain it any more than that. So I started looking for bows. I had no idea what I wanted, but I knew I didn't want something modern. And then eventually I came across Ravenbeak NatureWorks website with Jamie McDonald. saw an English longbow that he had just made that he was selling, and ended up buying that. And I still have that bow. I still teach people to shoot with it. I think it's 40 pounds at 28 inches. Shoots as well now as it did when I first bought it, probably a decade ago. And part of my search for kind of this purpose was I was getting into men's work, and I was eventually getting to a point where I was starting to plan some men's retreats, actually helping to like co-lead or lead men's retreats. And when I got that bow from Jamie, I've got this like bug that I wanted to learn how to carve a bow like that. And then I thought, well, maybe I can combine this with men's retreats and take men to Jamie and Powell River on the coast of British Columbia and carve bows. And so I reached out to him and he loved the idea. And so I started taking men there. So I carved my first three bows with Jamie, with groups of men who were on my retreats, and just kept fueling the fire for it. And then, as I mentioned, I met Pete. So it turns out on my farm, and he lives just down the road. So I was able to go and spend some time in his workshop, and he taught me how to back a bow for the first time with, I think, rawhide was the first one that I did. And he sold me my first laminate stave. I'd never worked with laminates. And then after that, I started building some laminate bows. And so I got to a point about 3 years ago where I had some stressful years in my life, and I felt like I could use some therapy, some like internal reflection, internal peace, internal healing, and bow carving. I just know does that. And so I had this idea of, I want to find more teachers. I want to reach out to people like Pete and Jamie around the world and travel and learn to carve bows with them. And my son at the time was like 10, and he had carved a lot of bows with me or helped me carve my bows. And I thought this would be something that we could do together. And then the idea just kind of kept percolating, and then the timing started to feel right for it. And then my daughter, who was at the time 13, she was in school here in Costa Rica, but she ended up, through consultation with her mother and I, she decided she wanted to stop going to school and just focus on things that she was passionate about. And she mentioned one of those things was photography. I didn't know she liked photography. She was 13. And so we got her a photography mentor. And when that happened, this idea started to really like change. And I was like, well, this is cool. If like I can go and travel and carve bows with bowyers, maybe she can come along with me and take photos. And I've always been a writer, never published anything, but I've always known like writing's in me. And so it just kind of all started to develop into this idea of let's see if we can make this happen. And I talked to her about it. She was really keen on doing it. We wanted to travel. My son ended up being able to come with us on some of the journey, but he was still in school. And he admits now, like at the time he was 11 and 12, and it would have been difficult for him to spend 8 or 10 hours a day in a workshop for 4 days straight times 14 bowyers. But my daughter, like, she was old enough to go out and do her own thing. She would do her photographs, and then she would go explore cities or towns or whatever. So it just started to kind of take shape, and then we just decided to commit to it. And what that commitment looked like was just, let's reach out to bowyers and let's just make this commitment that we're writing a book, and we want to come and include them in the book and carve a bow and take photos and do an interview. And that was kind of like, as soon as we started to put that out there and via email or Instagram messaging, as soon as we started to get responses, which took literally, I think our first response came in like the day after we sent out an invitation. And it was like, okay, we're doing it. Like, we're in, we got someone. And I don't remember who our first one was. I might be able to remember it. No, I don't remember who it was. But as soon as we got that first person, we're like, all right, well, let's keep going. And we didn't have a target number. We're just like, let's see how many amazing bowyers we can get. So we were just doing research, looking at everyone's websites and social media, talking to Pete and Jamie, who knew other bowyers, and finding out who they knew. And then once we'd sign on a new bowyer, we talked to them about who else can you recommend. And it just really started to come together quickly. And that would have been I think we sent out our first invitation in probably October of 2024. And we were traveling, and by June of 2025, we spent the next 5 months from June through November, June all the way through to the beginning of November, traveling around the world. and ended up visiting with 14 bowyers to carve bows. We visited with a few others along the way to just meet with them and do some archery and take some photos. But we had 14 who are included in the book. And so that's just how it happened. We found a publisher midway through our journeys. I found a few publishers that accepted our proposal, and then we ended up deciding with a publisher in Chicago called Trope. And now we're actually meeting with them in 2 hours to go over our final designs for the book. Like, we're at the very tail end of the process now, so it's pretty cool.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, and my daughter and I just had the time of our life. We would travel typically 5 months. I mean, we would do like 2 or 3 days visiting sites in between bowyers, normally going to cities, get totally burnt out of people and busyness. And then we'd go into the bowyer's home and workshop typically for like 4 or 5 days. And most of the bowyers lived like in the countryside or somewhere outside of the cities. And so it gave us a chance to kind of spend 5 days in nature carving and her doing her photographs. And we'd do a day or so of traveling by train or plane sometimes. And then we'd go into a city and walk the city for like 15 hours a day for 2 or 3 days. And then be like, we got to get out. Let's get out of the city. Let's go somewhere else. So we just kept doing it. And we didn't have any, other than the schedule with our bowyers, we didn't have any plans for the in-between stages. Like, we would book our accommodations en route to wherever we were going. Because we found that anytime a couple of times we made plans in advance, and then that ended up messing us up. So we just kind of had this strategy of, we'll book our accommodations when we're like an hour out, when we know where we're going for sure for that night. And it led us to places we never thought we would go. Like, we went to Ljubljana in Slovenia. We had no intention of going to Slovenia. We ended up going through more of Austria than we thought, because we picked up another bowyer, Phil Rockhauser in Austria, because another one of our bowyers got injured. We went to South Africa, Egypt, like we were all over, and it was Turkey. And so it just allowed us all this flexibility. Just, we knew we needed to be at a certain bowyer's destination on such and such date, but in between that, we had a friend who was filming a movie in southern Italy who invited us to come and stay with his family, and that was going to be like a day. We ended up staying for like 5 days. So it was just like the whole way. It was one of those really beautiful times for us where I wasn't bothered. There was nothing externally in my world that was calling on me to, like, for almost 5 months, I wasn't worried about anything else. I was reflecting on this just the other day. It reminded me when I was like 20 and traveling the world with a backpack. Like, everything was there. I didn't have to think about, oh shit, I need to take care of this or taking care of that or whatever. My wife and my son were traveling at the same time. We wove their travels in with ours when we could, but for the most part, like, everything in my life was just like on hold. So my daughter and I could just be totally immersed in the project. And it was beautiful. So beautiful.
Wow. Yeah, that's inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah, and the book's I hope the book's gonna inspire a lot of people. It is stunning. It really is. It's a 350-page coffee table book, and each bowyer has about 18 pages for their profile, probably about 25 photos per bowyer, and pretty lengthy story for each of them as well. So it's gonna be beautiful.
Excellent. Yeah, can't wait for it. In there, you mentioned men's work. There is a men's gathering in Chimacum, right outside Port Townsend, in June, called Manifest. It's the largest men's gathering in the Northwest. I think this is their 3rd or 4th year.
Nice.
And I have the opportunity to teach archery there. Calling the workshop Cultivating Foresight and Intuition. I'll send you the page for them on Instagram, let you check it out, because it's been a really incredible thing, both for myself and within this community. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I've been able to do something here called archery therapy, is what I call it. And it's been really inspiring to basically combine my passions of Chinese medicine, including Qigong and Tai Chi and archery, I'm not doing them all at the same time, but I have people who come and stay either here locally or stay with me, not in my home, but in a rental for like 4 or 5 days, and we'll just immerse in archery and inner work through acupuncture and breathing and qigong and tai chi, and it's been really cool. Archery is such a powerful tool, and especially for helping people overcome like addictions, as we were talking about, like bringing some purpose into life, bringing focus, integrity, purpose. Like archery is amazing for that. So
That's incredible that you're doing that too.
yeah, I just being able to follow our passions, it's so fulfilling. Like every day I get to wake up and just be excited for the day that's ahead. And it's everything that I do is something I love to do, that I've chosen to do, and it's something that I can also feel good about doing because it's a service to others as well. So I feel so fortunate for that.
Good on you, man. That's great.
Yeah. Thanks, Jared. Thanks again for connecting, and let's stay in touch.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks for
All
the
right.
opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Project Quiver on Salish Wolf. Follow our journey on Instagram at Project Quiver as we seek out the world's most extraordinary traditional bowyers, and join our newsletter at projectquiver.com. Our coffee table book, Quiver, The Art of Life Through Bowcraft, arrives in 2026. We are honored to share with you the beauty, history, and magic of traditional archery.